The diner sat on the corner of Maple Street, a small, nostalgic place where the smell of warm pancakes and sizzling butter always drifted into the air. The kind of place where old friends caught up, families gathered on lazy weekends, and the staff knew regulars by name. But that afternoon, something felt different, quieter, heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Lucy and her mother, Claire, sat in their usual corner booth near the window. The sunlight filtered through the blinds in soft stripes, falling across Lucy's delicate face. She was 13, though sometimes her mother still saw her as the tiny baby she once held through long nights in the hospital. Born with a spinal condition, Lucy had learned to walk later than most children, and even then, she walked with a noticeable limp. But none of that dimmed her gentle spirit. If anything, it made her kinder, softer, more grateful for every small victory. She poked a fry with her fork and smiled shyly at her mother. "It's extra crispy today," she whispered, as though the fries might hear her admiration. Claire laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. "I told them you were coming. Maybe they made it special for you." Lucy's cheeks warmed with bashful delight. Everything was peaceful, until the door swung open with a loud clang. 3 teenage boys stormed into the diner like they owned it. They were high schoolers, bigger, louder, wrapped in the kind of reckless confidence that came from being feared, not respected. They shoved each other, laughed too loudly, and strutted toward the counter as if daring someone to challenge them. The staff tensed, but no one said anything. Everyone had seen these boys before. They were trouble. Lucy noticed them instantly. Her shoulders stiffened, and she lowered her gaze to her plate. Crowds made her nervous, loud people made her anxious. She tried to tuck herself closer to her mother, hoping the boys wouldn't notice her. But they did. The tallest one, scruffy brown hair, cruel smirk, looked over his shoulder and spotted her. He nudged his friend. "Look," he whispered too loudly, "she walks funny." Claire heard him and instinctively wrapped an arm around Lucy. The boys snickered, their eyes narrowing like predators spotting prey. They sauntered over to the booth, shadows falling across Lucy's table. "Hey," the tall one said mockingly. "You okay there, little robot legs?" His friend laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Lucy froze. Her breath hitched. Her hands trembled on the table. Claire's voice shook with anger. "Leave her alone. Go back to your booth." The boys didn't move. In fact, they seemed to enjoy the attention. One reached forward, snatching a fry from Lucy's plate. He held it up dramatically, sniffed it, then dropped it back onto the table with exaggerated disgust. "That was gross. Does she even know how to chew right?" he mocked. Claire shot up from her seat. "Stop it. Stop harassing my daughter." The waitress stepped forward, her face pale. "Boys, that's enough. If you don't behave, I'm calling the police." This only made them laugh harder. And then, with the kind of casual cruelty that took the breath out of the entire diner, the third boy leaned forward and slapped Lucy's cheek, just enough to sting, but more than enough to humiliate. Lucy gasped, her eyes filling instantly with tears. She cupped her face, shrinking back against her mother. Claire cried out in shock. "How dare you? Don't you ever touch my daughter." People stood. Someone yelled, "That's assault." Another said, "Leave her alone." But no one stepped in, not really. No one grabbed the boys. No one blocked their path. They were scared, and the boys knew it. The leader smirked, turning to his friends. "Let's go. This place is boring." They shoved open the glass door, laughing as though they had done something clever, not cruel. Their laughter trailed outside, echoing through the diner like a stain. Inside, the silence was suffocating. Lucy buried her face in her mother's chest, shaking with silent sobs. Claire held her tightly, whispering, "It's okay, baby. I'm here, I'm here." Her own tears slipped down her cheeks like quiet, helpless rivers. The waitress knelt beside them. "Should I call the police? Do you want to file a report?" Claire wiped her face, trying to steady her voice. I don't know. I just want her to be okay." Lucy's cheek was still red. Her mother kissed it gently. Around the diner, people whispered, some angry at the boys, others angry at themselves for not stepping in. But guilt rarely mattered after the damage was done. Minutes passed, then half an hour. The diner slowly returned to its routine. Orders were taken, conversations resumed, and cups clinked faintly against saucers, but the warmth had not returned. Lucy stared quietly at her leather jacket, tracing the zipper with her finger. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence was enough. Then, as the clock above the register ticked toward the hour, the front door chimed again. This time, the sound echoed differently. Deeper, heavier, more commanding. 12 bikers stepped into the diner in a single, unified rhythm, boots thudding, jackets creaking, eyes sharp beneath worn helmets. They filled the doorway like a wall of steel and leather. Conversations died instantly. These weren't troublemakers. They weren't drunkards. They weren't out looking for fights. But they carried something in their posture, an unspoken promise. We don't tolerate injustice. Their leader stood at the front, a tall man in his late 50s with silver braids and a face mapped by years of stories. Tattoos snaked down his arms, each symbol meaningful, each line earned. He swept the diner with a calm, piercing gaze, until his eyes landed on Lucy. Her red cheek, her trembling hands, her mother's protective arm. His expression softened. He approached slowly, lowering himself on one knee beside her booth. "Hey, sweetheart," he said gently, voice as soft as leather worn smooth by time. "You look like you had a rough day. Want to tell me what happened?" Lucy blinked up at him, unsure, but something in his tone, warm, safe, familiar, made her shoulders loosen just a little. Claire answered quietly, her voice still raw. "Some boys came in earlier. They hurt her." The diner became still again. The leader stood up slowly, turning to the waitress. Who were they? Descriptions unfolded. Details were shared. People who had stayed silent before now spoke up, guilty, eager, regretful. The biker nodded once. No threats, no dramatics. Then he motioned to his brothers. And in a wave of rumbling boots and leather, they stepped back outside, mounted their bikes, and vanished into the falling dusk. The moment the bikers roared out of the parking lot, the entire diner felt like it had just witnessed a storm forming, silent, powerful, and purposeful. The sound of engines faded into the distance, replaced only by the soft hum of the heater and the faint clinking of dishes. But no one truly resumed eating. Every eye lingered on the door, every breath held in the air like a question waiting to be answered. Lucy sat against her mother's side, still trembling, though her breathing had steadied. Claire stroked her hair gently, whispering little reassurances, soft reminders that she was safe, that those boys were gone, that brave people had stepped in. But Claire herself wasn't fully calm. She kept glancing out the window, unsure of what the bikers planned to do, hoping nothing dangerous would happen. The waitress brought hot chocolate for both of them on the house. "I don't know what those men are doing," she said quietly, "but I do know they're the kind that protects people like family." Lucy looked down at her hot chocolate, swirling the spoon slowly. "Do you think they're mad at the boys?" she whispered. Claire brushed a thumb across her daughter's still reddened cheek. "I think they're more upset about what was done to you." The doorbell chimed again, not with bikers returning, but with evening customers casually entering, unaware of the emotional weight hanging in the air. But no one else in the diner could move past what had happened. They all kept glancing at Lucy, some offering sympathetic smiles, others quietly vowing in their hearts that they should have stood up earlier. Meanwhile, outside the diner and across the small town, the bikers were already making their presence known. They rode with the confidence of men who had long ago sworn never to let injustice pass silently. Their leader, nicknamed Silver Hawk, for his sharp perception and long braided hair, had once lived through bullying himself. Though he rarely spoke of it, those who knew him understood one thing: nothing triggered his protective instincts faster than someone hurting a child, especially a vulnerable one. "Those boys think they're invincible," he said to his crew as they pulled into a quiet street. "Time to show them there's always someone bigger." It didn't take long to find the bullies. They were at the park near the old basketball court, still laughing loudly, replaying their cruelty like it was some kind of triumph. Their bikes lay on the ground, and they tossed rocks at an empty soda can, mocking the waitress who had warned them and bragging about the slap. That was when they heard the rumble. The kind of deep, thunderous rumble that vibrated through the pavement. All three boys froze. 12 motorcycles rolled in like a slow-moving storm cloud, surrounding them with precise, intentional silence. Engines shuddered, lights glowed, and leather jackets rustled as the bikers dismounted. The boys instantly paled. One stepped back. We didn't do anything." Silver Hawk walked forward, his boots steady on the pavement. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said calmly, hands relaxed at his sides. "But I am here to teach you something." The boys swallowed hard, eyes flickering around the circle of bikers like trapped animals. "See," Silver Hawk continued, "there's a little girl crying in a diner right now because of you. A girl who never did anything to you. A girl who already has more struggles than you'll ever understand. The shortest boy stammered, we were just joking. Was she laughing? Silver Hawk cut in, his voice sharp yet controlled. The boy's mouth snapped shut. Silence fell, thick, tense, undeniable. Silver Hawk stepped closer, lowering to their eye level. When you hurt someone weaker than you, it doesn't make you strong. It makes you small. One biker cracked his knuckles loudly, an unspoken reminder of their presence, but Silver Hawk never raised a hand. He didn't need to. Here's what's going to happen, he said, pointing back toward the diner. You're going to go back there, and you're going to apologize to that girl. Not because you're scared of us, though you clearly are, but because it's the right thing to do. He paused. And you're going to mean it. The boys nodded frantically. Good, Silver Hawk said. Let's go. The bikers parted, creating a path. The boys walked their bicycles with shaking hands, escorted not by force but by the overwhelming weight of accountability. Back at the diner, Claire lifted her head at the sudden sound of footsteps outside. Mom, Lucy asked, softly, but before Claire could respond, the three boys pushed open the door, eyes lowered, shoulders slumped, fear and regret pooling in their expressions. The diner fell silent once more. The boys shuffled toward the booth, each gripping the handlebars of their bikes outside like a clumsy tether to reality. The leader of the trio cleared his throat, his voice trembling. We're sorry, he managed. We shouldn't have said those things. Or touched you. It was wrong. His friends echoed softly, we're sorry. Lucy stared at them for a long moment. Her hands were still slightly curled in her lap. She was scared, but she also understood something deeper. This wasn't about fear anymore. This was about righting a wrong. She looked at each boy, meeting their eyes one by one. It hurt, she whispered. But, thank you for saying sorry. Her voice was so gentle, so unexpectedly forgiving, that even Claire had to blink away tears. The boys nodded and hurried out, leaving the door to swing behind them as they returned to the bikers waiting outside. The moment they were gone, Silver Hawk stepped inside. He wasn't loud. He wasn't intimidating. He simply walked over to Lucy's booth with the quiet authority of a protector. He reached into his vest and pulled out a small, worn leather patch, stitched with angel wings and a tiny heart in the center. This, he said, placing it carefully in Lucy's hands, is a bravery patch. We give it only to the strongest among us. Lucy's eyes widened. You, he said warmly. Because you faced cruelty today, and you're still here. You're still kind. That takes more strength than any biker on the road. The diner erupted into soft applause. Claire cried openly now, gratitude pouring from her heart. Silver Hawk placed a gentle hand on Lucy's shoulder. You ever need us, sweetheart, you just call. We look after our own. For the first time since the slap, Lucy smiled, small, sincere, and filled with hope. And in that little diner, surrounded by strangers who had become unexpected protectors, she felt something she hadn't felt in hours. Safe, seen, and incredibly, beautifully brave.